Very good morning to you. Welcome to my sitting room for another thought for the day. We're very close to the end of Luke's Gospel now, and we're in Luke 24, 13 to 35. That wonderful, inspiring story of the two disciples walking on the way to Emmaus from Jerusalem, some 7 miles, long walk. And they were walking there, talking and going over everything that had happened in those terrible last few days of Jesus' life. And they were talking and discussing, and Jesus approached them and walked with them, and they didn't recognize him. And when they asked him if he was the only person in Jerusalem, because he was obviously walking in the same direction as them, so he had been in Jerusalem, they assumed, are you the only stranger who doesn't know the things that have taken place in the last few days? And they say how Jesus was crucified, a prophet mighty in deed and word. He was crucified. And then the women have told that he is not, they didn't find him in the tomb, and that he's alive. And they tell him everything. And he says, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared." Was not the Messiah, was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and enter into his glory? And then he began what must have been the most amazing, and it was a long walk. We have to bear in mind this was a long walk. When you go on a walk with somebody, it's a long way. And you get to know someone really quite well if you walk with them and you converse about whatever the topic of the day is. And this was the topic of the day, the happenings in Jerusalem. And the rumour, well, the thing that had been said, I think from what was said, it sounds like they were personally told by the women. We don't know who these two were. One was Cleopas, and the other, some say was his wife, and some say was another disciple. We don't know. But Jesus, starting from Moses, went through the Old Testament, highlighting for them the verses that referred to him and to his suffering. And then when they get to the village, he sits at table with them and is identified as he breaks bread and gives thanks for it. A wonderful, wonderful experience. Changed the life of these two people forever. A meeting with Jesus, and how often meeting with Jesus, coming to a realization that he really is who he claimed to be, coming to a realization that the scriptures all tie together most beautifully. It is amazing as you read through the scriptures and as you study them. There isn't a single book in the Old Testament that does not contain some nugget that refers to Jesus and to what he was going to come and do. I wasn't going to do this, but I think I might give you a little bit of a challenge. After all, we've got so much time on our hands, haven't we? Those of us who aren't able to go to work, and as life is becoming a little bit more restricted than it was, and we're changing our plans again. I mean, it would be easy to go onto the internet and just search the internet for prophecies about Jesus in the Old Testament. I think there are sources there, but perhaps spend a little time today thinking about the different books of the Old Testament and what is there in Genesis that foretells Jesus, and what is there in Joshua, in Judges, in Ruth, in Kings and Chronicles. What is there? What is there in the Psalms that tells us about Jesus? What can we learn? It was, I know when I was at Bible college, it was called, referred to as the scarlet thread through the Old Testament. You know, that the promises of salvation from the moment of the fall. I think the first indication of the provision of a Saviour comes in what God said to Adam and Eve after they ate of the fruit. You'll find it, I think, in Genesis chapter 3. The first reference to Jesus is there, not by name, but by prophecy. You know, he will bruise your heel, and your heel will bruise his head. I think it is. There is a promise that a descendant of Adam and Eve would one day come and destroy the enemy of humankind. That scarlet thread, that word scarlet thread comes from the walls of Jericho when Rahab put a scarlet thread in the window of her house, her home, which was in the wall of Jericho. And because she'd helped the spies, the promise was that no one would attack anyone who was in her home if she marked her home out with a scarlet thread hanging in the window. And that scarlet thread, what a symbolic thing. You know, it's a thread, it's a fine line, but it's there. You can trace it like you would trace, I don't know, in a maze. You would follow the path through a maze till you get to the solution, or you would join together all the numbers on a join the numbers picture until the full picture appears. Little bits of truth about what Jesus is going to do. That's quite a good illustration, isn't it? A dot-to-dot picture. You know, each little line doesn't tell you very much, but as you join each number together and you advance through the Old Testament, you see clearer and clearer the picture of who Jesus is going to be and what he's going to do. It appears as from nowhere, going through the gradual revelation by God of what his Saviour, his Son was going to be like. And Jesus says to these two disciples, if you've read the Old Testament, you should know what I was going to do. You should know what I was going to be like. You should have seen, you should recognize me because of the Old Testament promises. Not just because of what I did, but because the promises were all there. It's all foreshadowed in the Old Testament. The ultimate act of God in sending Jesus to be Saviour. It's a wonderful thing. And we might pick out a few of those verses in the next few weeks. I don't know what we'll talk about tomorrow. We have reached the end of Luke's Gospel, and it's been a wonderful journey, and I've enjoyed it very much, and I hope you've enjoyed it very much too. And we'll talk again tomorrow. But just to think about what a treasure the Old Testament. If you've never thought of the Old Testament as a treasure before, as a place to search for clues, think of yourself a bit like a detective. You're trying to find evidence that shows that Jesus fulfilled the Old Testament. When you approach an Old Testament book, don't just read it. Search for clues for the Saviour. Search for clues, those little lines that join up to give the fuller picture of what Jesus was going to be like and how wonderfully he fulfilled every single one of them. And there are many he hasn't fulfilled yet. They will be fulfilled when he returns. Praise his name. He is coming back, and we look up, not down, for his coming. Wonderful thought for today, I think. And I'll see you tomorrow.